Welcome everyone to this IHiS Learning Festival. I'm Hock Guan from the SingHealth Research and Education Team, CIO office, and I'm been honored to be invited to share our CIO office journey in enabling the approach that we take to help our SingHealth staff as well as our SingHealth business users to be the upskills in their digital journeys as well as upskilling their digital know-how so that they can jointly work with us to deploy and support their necessary business needs in terms of project execution and project deployment. So today's I'm going to focus on 4 key agendas. In fact, the first is pretty much on how this come about. We started off with Group Chief Data and Strategy Officer's vision on digital journey. And from the digital literacies, we kind of look into that. How are the important topics of learning as being aligned to the SingHealth digital strategy? And from those alignment, we kind of look into the various learning paths we have started off to align the necessary topics so that we can start the learning journey for our SingHealth staffs. And pretty much from there, we also set certain expected timeline for those different learning paths to complete, as well as the up and coming learning path and journey we intend to actually further develop on so that we can bring along other streams of learning knowledge for the staff and the journey towards getting themselves digitally prepared. So from there, I will kind of open up for any Q&A if you have through my presentations. All right, on this slide, it's kind of a bit busy, but it really encompasses how the visions that we have been embarking on, where the candidate himself have carved out the visions on how we were able to upskill our SingHealth digital practitioners, such that it can help to accelerate our digital tech capabilities. He looked into the necessity how this can be driven by defining a framework, which he crafted as an acronym called MODA, which really stands for Mobilities and IOMT. O really go towards the organization. D is the area of the data focus, and the A is really, sorry, the MOD and the A is really on the architecture side of the things to enable this whole capabilities. So if I delve further into the MODA aspect from the mobility and IOMT space of things, is looking at how we were able to empower the digital community by creating a ubiquitous customer-friendly channels so they can deliver and collect the data and also to improve their engagement with patients, staff, and the community we serve. In this case, this is very focused on the regional health services in this aspect. Moving on to the MODA, the O itself, we're looking into the organizations side of things, how we will build a digital organizations, whereby the in-house capabilities and develop it and build it so they can use those change management to foster a culture that embraces a data-driven decision-making, digital technology, innovations, and transformations, and not to further look into the safe and secure use of data and digital assets. So some of these words pretty much translate into a certain aspect of how the area of topics we are going to drive to address each of these aspect of the organization's site. On to the D itself, which is towards the data of the MODA, it is looking at how you could do the harnessing of the data by writing the data and enable the data sharings, such that the research site, the operation planning and innovations, quality improvement as far as the artificial intelligence and machine learning is part of this aspect of the data harnessing. On to the last word for the A itself, that's where the architecture comes about, how to actually enable this whole full framework. You will see that how he look into the solidifying the digital foundation in order for us to really manage the IT architectures and ensure that both the business and IT are well aligned to enable these area of innovation, scalabilities, and mobility, and all important how the data sharing and securities are being focused on. So with this whole framework of ODA, we translate it into this aspect of 6 different pillars that how we look into these pillars to drive towards the right knowledge area of skill sets that we want to impart towards our staff who will join us in this digital journey. Of the 6 pillars, we look into the emerging technologies and innovations that encompass the data analytics, that will actually compresses the artificial intelligence, the machine language aspect, as well as the mobility side of the know-how. On the technology infrastructures and modernizations, we will look into how the enterprise architectures is necessitated to support this. And more important, we are also moving towards the encompasses of the cloud computing. And I think some of the audience are well aware. IHiS side also have actually built out the healthcare commercial cloud. So some of these aspects of the cloud computing are pretty much aligned towards where the commercial clouds or things are being focused from IHiS HCC offering. That actually covers the 4 out of the 6 pillars. On the last 2 pillars, we are really looking into that pretty much tie back to the 4th, the LODA framework, which is on the cybersecurity aspect, which I think we are pretty much also being required to also look into and keep ourselves into the cyber resiliencies and cyber know-how, and also into the aspect of organization where it actually embraces the know-how, how the organization be knowledge about what agile means, what are the various framework and methodologies need to be encompassed so that we can actually support the various type of projects that we will actually to embark on. All right, moving on from these 6 pillars, it gives us a framework as well as the specific focus area so that we can then align the SingHealth digital strategies towards the type of topics that our SingHealth colleagues and staff will be able to embrace and start learning towards achieving a specific goals. So we kind of spread out because it's also quite multiple with so many different area of topics, how we categorize them, and learning along the way, we see the best ideal approach we will take is find the right digital platform, learning platform, so that we can actually bring it easily to the staff as well as to our business user, for which they can actually easily navigate towards the learning platforms, as well as for a big group of our SingHealth CIOO office staffs are actually IHiS staff itself. They also have similar account access to the Udemy platform. So we kind of on SingHealth site sign up for a specific license that's to cater for those who doesn't have the equivalent license to use from the IHiS stance. And from there, we develop 2 paths of learning journey. The first path, which will start off by getting all the trainees or the learners and overarching knowledge about what the healthcare industry is about. So we pick the topic called the Healthcare 4.0, which is healthcare in the industry of 4.0's visions that really give you a good background and a flavor of what healthcare is about, what is the past and what is the current and futures landscape of healthcare. So with that as a setting, it oriented the learners and the trainees on the specific topics which align to the 6 pillars we have. So towards the initial path which we have crafted, we first bring in the cloud computing topic, AI and data analytics, as well as enterprise API architectures. for the first journeys itself will last towards a good stretch of 3 months for the staff to actually embark on. So under cloud computing, we kind of pick specific area of interest, which is what I earlier mentioned, kind of aligned to IHiS central teams developing the healthcare commercial cloud, which focus on the AWS, the Amazon Web Services, the Microsoft Azure Cloud Services, as well as the Google Cloud Platform. So these three will give a good flavor to start off on the cloud computing journeys that in a way it is quite common and popular in the commercial space, and not forgetting in aligning to IHiS cloud journeys that they are also trying to develop and establish a HCC offering. On to the second topic under the first path itself, we have the AI and data analytics, and we have decided to pick the 4 topics itself under the Udemy that really align this well for the start of this learning journey. One on the data literacy course itself, learn how to work with data. And the other 3 topics pretty much is a high level executive brief towards what data science and machine learning is about, what the AI, artificial intelligence type of topic encompass, and not forgetting some of the further topics toward deep learning itself, how some of these are really beyond the AI to learn some of the machine language, where deep learning is the key topics to breathe a favor towards this. On to the last pillars under the first path, we do have the enterprise architectures that we look into 3 specific topics from the Udemy's offering. One of them is the Foundation Enterprise Architecture Training. The other one is actually on the plan and execute better software. And the third one is actually on designing highly scalable systems. So it gives you the flavor of how some of the enterprise architectures type of lingos as well as the necessary knowledge in this space so that you can start this whole know-how in addressing the necessary planning needs when you are designing or to look into a new systems that serve the business requirement. So at least for the first path, we actually lasted for the first 3 good months, which started somewhere in February this year, and we are looking somewhere by April end or early May, we will pretty much look towards the initial path to complete by the trainees and staff who have been on board to this training journey, learning path. On the second learning path that we have created, it will focus the other 3 remaining pillars of our areas. One on the cybersecurity, the other one is on organization and developments and operations, as well as on the mobility side of the things. So for these 3 specific pillars of the topics, cybersecurity, I don't think that is not unfamiliar to most of you, but we pretty much want to get the initial focus in this area across the staff to be level set what they should be first embark on. This is on the information security management fundamental for non-technicals, as well as a risk management for cybersecurity and IT managers. The topics that is pretty much pretty well received and pretty well being visited by across the industries under Udemy on the cybersecurity front. On to the pillar of organization DevOps, that's where we really want to get the culture right and start having to impart the idea of agile fundamentals, how some of these methodologies should be bring across to the organization to impart this and this culture. And that also give them a flavor of inside the whole agile itself. What are the Scrum process as well as a common process are being looked into, so that if people are embarking a project and have this conversation, what is going to use a Scrum approach to take, at least everyone who have went through this whole learning process will get to know that these are the terms commonly used in preparing and planning for projects and systems development. There's also the design thinking and crash courses that we also have selected, which is pretty practical in applying to the organization side of the know-how. Onto the final pillars on the mobilities. These days, in order to digitize and pretty much towards the digital needs, a lot of our use models are pretty much enabling the mobility front, which the applications, the ability to access the information on the move and pretty much getting the updated know-how of data and infos onto gadgets that is easily accessible by the staff or individuals users are pretty much on your mobile device, such as the iOS or the Android device. So on the mobility pillars itself, we look into the two relevant courses under Udemy, and we look into the complete apps design courses that really encompass on the user interface, user experience, and the design thinking, so that it can really bring out the richness and the effectiveness of designing the mobile application, and actually look into how you could look to create that whole stickiness and the excitement of user want to use the apps rather than just a very dull and hard to navigate functionalities that is designed from a mobile standpoint. And there's also the mobile development architecture, which is pretty relevant to start off the journey on knowledge of mobility. So that covers the two key learning paths we have went through, and having to take off from the high vision from a modal framework that we translate into the 6 pillars that I have shared in the earlier slide, and that's how we are translate into the key topics that is being looked into in this space, so that it can better align to the SingHealth digital strategy. Onto this slide itself, we kind of spread out where those two learning paths I have earlier mentioned are being aligned across to time scales. So in the initial learning path space, I have earlier mentioned it is to, again, we are just guesstimating, hopefully along their busy schedules, they will be finding their times in between their work involvement and commitment to spare some time for their learning and going through this Udemy learning path they have assigned to them, so that they can try to complete each of these key modules within a stipulated 3 months for the first learning path that encompass the digital transformation of healthcare that give the whole perspective of healthcare down to the 3 key pillars: cloud computing, AI, and data analytics, down to enterprise and architecture and API. So we are looking somewhere by the end of this month to early start of next month, we will get a sense how Udemy as a platform we're able to generate certain initial data, how the staff who have joined this learning path have progressed and learned towards each of these modules, and we can actually get to find how their completion of each of these assigned courses so far. The second learning path we will likely will be looking at them starting somewhere next month. That will really bring them towards the other 3 remaining pillars, from the mobility stance down to the organization and DevOps and to the cybersecurity. That will last to another 3 months, somewhere to end of July. And by the early August, we will kind of do the necessary run through the statistics and see how the staff and trainees have been progressing so far. So some of the early summary points is that all these learning paths help to drive customized and purposeful learning through careful creations of the fundamental courses in alignment to the 6 pillars we have shared in the earlier slide. And because Udemy platform is pretty much being used widely in IHiS, and SingHealth kind of look into is also a good appropriate platform we could actually adopt and bring it across our SingHealth staff. We also leverage on the platform's functionality and capability so that we can do the necessary monitoring on the progress using their available dashboards on the platforms. So it gives us that sense of how the staff are progressing towards the learning journey and learning path. And through that platform, we also get to be able to see some granular data in analyzing how the learning behavior, progress of staff, and identify certain trends. And not forgetting, not just the platform itself, when we also have bring this particular learning journeys to the attention of our CIO office staff, as well as our SingHealth clinicians and the targeted audience. We also constantly get to hear some of their feedback in terms of certain modules that we have initially chosen and courses chosen from Udemy tend to be a bit too lengthy, or some of them may not sound that it's very, in a way, very practical because they are too detailed in diving into certain aspects of the topic, which may not be so practical at the start of the learning journey. So we take some of this feedback pretty seriously, and we consider some of this and adjust some of the courses in the Udemy offerings along the way. So that's where it also reflect the flexibility the platforms does comes along, and giving the opportunity to immediately adjust in this whole process so that we could actually bring the right contents and the right amount of those trainings that is offered in Udemy to be custom tailored to fit the needs of the ground. So as we have been started this journey, we also had to learn some of this, hear from the feedback, and adjust some of this along the way. And we also looking in next steps. Some of those are in progress, whereby we're trying to look into what are the right key metrics and the KPI, so that we can actually use this as a way to measure the success of this whole learning investments, as well as the learning journey that we have created for the staff and our IHiS CIO office users who are assigned to SingHealth office. And while we have initially created the 2 learning paths aligned to the 6 pillars, pretty much matched to the digital framework, we also are looking at how we can create additional learning paths so that we can promote more fundamental digital know-how amongst the business and end users. Typically, you will see our project involvement with our cluster users looking into them to be the system sponsor or the systems champion. A lot of time we will have to be pretty much trying to bring across certain project lingos and methodologies so that they were well aware how we're going to approach and take their project forward to support the business needs. So some of the more fundamental digital know-how knowledge that we are looking for are also in the pipeline trying to create on this aspect. Take for example, there will be cloud computing. The earlier mentioned how some of these are necessity, but where are some of the basic fundamental of what is AWS really is about, what is Azure hosting does offer, or what the Google Cloud platform does being able to present. So some of the fundamental, we need to then look into the content that Udemy does offer, or maybe there are some other aspect of the offering that the vendors are able to offer in that regards, but it's also make accessible for them at no cost. We will try to bring some of this so that it will have a different variety of learning and richness that we can actually bring it to our business and end users. So that's pretty much I have at this part of my sharing, as well as the journey that SingHealth office have went through. That pretty much is my end of my slide. So I pretty much would like to open up for any Q&A that you have for what I've shared so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hock Guan. That was definitely very, very insightful. And I think that everybody has got some question to ask. And I will go first since I'm hogging the mic right now. So that's a privilege you get. So anyway, I've got a few questions, but I'm not going to inundate you with all of them. But there is one particular one that goes back to I think your last slide, and especially the last few things you actually mentioned. But what I would really like to find out is what will be some of the challenges that you face in, especially in changing the culture, as you're moving towards digitalization? I mean, if you look at the population size there, it's a large size. And as
Mhm.
you are moving to looking at all of the six pillars, all right, maybe some pillars are easier to move than others, in that sense. And you don't have to go into the details of every one of them, but I think one of the things I would like to know, at least because we are also, in aspects of change management, right? Yeah. What were some of the challenges that you all felt faced in your in the various stages of the entire project? Not that project is over, but the various stages, and highlight how you all go around some of these issues and problems that you may be facing. Is that okay?
Oh, thanks, Sebastian, for that questions. Definitely, it's not been a rosy when we kind of embark this journey to translate the whole visions and the framework that our GDSOs have crafted. How we then help to support that visions and translate into the six pillars for which we can focus on the necessary digital skill set we need to impart to our staff as well as to our CL office folks. Um, so as some of the challenge I have encountered through this whole process, first definitely is one of the selecting of the right digital platform and the learning platform is key. And when we do the scouting and we do the search, we also have to be very cautious as some of these always count with a fee at a price of whichever we choose. So some of these have been the cost concerns and what are the best way to deliver this. Not forgetting within SingHealth, and I think I echoes the other two clusters have in their own staff training and upskilling themselves. In particular, they have annual certifications and courses they have. They have their existing Wislearn e-learning platform that all the staff across the three clusters are pretty much still using it as a way to maintain or upkeep some of the skill set. In particular, there are some mandatory cybersecurity training that they go through. So all the users are well familiar with those learning tools and familiar with the interface to get them learning. So trying to introduce a new one is definitely one aspect of um, putting this challenge across how to pick the right digital platform to introduce in front of the users and towards the staff to learn a different set of skill sets. So we do see from that standpoint, if we pick one that is definitely majority of our CL office staff are familiar with, which is happen to be IHiS selected Udemy. We do the assessment and find that this is also quite a useful platform that will enrich our learning process. They have a really existing courses that is out there. We could actually bring them forward. So that gives us the opportunity to bring the platforms to SingHealth, but we also cautious about the cost of the licensing, and we end up subscribing to a start a handful of a few hundred in order to cater for SingHealth staff under the DDS organization who are not the IHiS staff, which doesn't enjoy the Udemy account that has come along as IHiS staff itself. So we cater for that group, but both platforms are of similar natures. We can then create a learning path on these two account and trying to bring all the SingHealth folks who are targeted to go through this whole journey to jointly come along. So that's the challenge from cost, from picking the right platform and bring this to this level of progress. But again, it's never been proof that this will be the right way or the end way, but we start somewhere and allow us to address some of the constraints.
Thank you very much for that, Guan. We've got a couple of people who have raised their hands to ask questions. Maybe we'll go to Salman first. Is that okay, Salman?
Hi, thanks, Guan, for your inspiring talk. The question I had was, usually we learn by doing. So, we go on these courses and then this all disappears from my head. What practical tools are we providing staff? So, for example, I know we have an AWS account. I can look at the course and then try something out. What other tools are we providing to support that ongoing learning and application of what we've learned in a way that benefits our stakeholders?
Well, thanks for the questions. Definitely, learning is going to be just imparting some of the know-how towards the methodologies, the lingos used in this whole aspect. But when you come to really put into hands-on and give it a try, I think I would suggest looking into considerations. If, for example, since you talk about the topic is on cloud computing, definitely AWS vendors or even onto Azure vendors. Unfortunately, I've not been too in-depth into the Google Cloud platform. The other two earlier vendors, AWS and Azure Cloud Services, if you go into their offerings website, they do have some trial account that you can sign up without cost to you. Through those trial account that you're going to subscribe to, you could start then look into what you have learned from all this training and look into what their trial account that you could actually play with in subscribing to those services. So that could be one aspect of enabling your hands-on learning from that approach. I also have seen in particular from Microsoft Azure offering, they will pretty much also created some of the scheduled webinar or scheduled courses that actually bring some of the topics into more next level of in-depth or even practical labs to come along. And you can sign up some of these from the Microsoft Azure's so-called instructor
question
or trainer
was more on
question.
the applications of the benefits our stakeholders. So, I can't put data on the cloud because of various audit and security issues. So how do I connect what I've learned to more materially bring benefit? Any suggestions on that? Otherwise, it's just all theory with a trial account and demo data. And...
I see. So you have some, so you felt that there's a limitation because some of this that's offered by even the vendors who are offering the instructor-led training sessions, they may not be helpful in helping to so-called enrich your knowledge that you learn from all this training itself.
Maybe Anthony, you understand my question, Sebastian?
I think I can help on the direction of this. Guan, can you go back to slide 4?
Sure, let me go ahead. Slide 4.
Where you showed the roadmap.
All right, let me go and present this again.
All right.
Here you go, this slide 4.
All right, so I think we all appreciate just getting a large group to agree on anything and, what courses to select and whatnot. We all understand that's a huge achievement. So we sort of take that. I'm going to ask you a series of short questions. They're going to help peel off the onion in the direction that Salman was pointing. All right.
I see.
Who would be taking these courses within SingHealth? Is it the IHiS employees under the CIO office? Is it only the new IHiS employees? Is it everyone? Is it other people in SingHealth? Could you clarify the audience?
Sure. So for the initial start, where we also are experimenting, trying to see how best this deliver, we first define the target audience are the staff under the DDS organization, under BEN's organization that encompass the OAI office, and that's where the CIO office come under, as well as the others office such as the data office, the transformation office that is under the DDS organizations, where that small handful of them are part of the SingHealth direct staff. They are not IHiS staff.
Right. So it sounds like people who are both IHiS staff as well as SingHealth staff involved.
SingHealth direct staff, correct. That's right.
Okay, and that's great. All right. Solomon brought up a very subtle point that I think the 73 or so people on this session will appreciate. The terms training content and like here's a roadmap for training courses to take. That term is not interchangeable with learning.
I see.
Training just says, here are the courses. Go immerse yourself in the courses. Learning says certain things have to happen so that in each person's mind, they think differently, believe differently, and behave differently after taking something in, right?
Right. Okay.
And Solomon gave the example that one common way that happens is learning by doing. All right.
I understand.
So we want to acknowledge sort of the amazing effort just to get slide 4 and getting a bunch of people to agree on that. And let's take the first path, just the top 3 courses. All right. So even though we know IHiS has sort of like a lockdown environment, we can't just, through our firewall easily go into, anything the vendors put up. How do we get people exercising what they get exposed to? And let's not make it even more difficult than it needs to be. Because some of these are IHiS people, some of these are non-IT specialists, right? How do we get people talking about what they learned? How do we get people socializing? Oh, I just did this thing on Amazon and Google Cloud. Well, I sort of have some ideas I want to discuss with somebody. How do you get people after they take in the information to sort of to poke it, to try it, to discuss it?
Yes, definitely. This are, I guess, what you are leading towards. Peer learning way of it makes a lot more so-called achievable to have that if this is a classroom type of training, or in a way is in tech, but it could be also organized virtually by a trainer, instructor-led training where all the audience in there.
Even if for practical purposes, the distribution is each individual does these things as Udemy modules. Okay, that's got its pragmatics. We all understand. But after a bunch of individuals do that, how do you get them to revisit the material, to think about how it applies to their work, even if it's a step before Solomon's question, even if it's just at the conceptual level, what does this mean for what I'm doing now, or what does this mean for something I might be doing in the future? In other words, how do they integrate the new content with their work?
Right. So at least I kind of focus on, at least from the cloud computing stance, where from the cloud computing topics that we have specifically picked among all the various courses that's out there, these are the one that will first give them the immediate favor and know what AWS, Azure, and GCP.
Right. So we assume let's assume everybody takes the courses.
Sure.
I mean, not everyone will, but let's just
Right.
positively say that happens.
Okay.
So you've gotten however many, 50, 100, 200 people, boom, they've all done the cloud. They've all done one of those top boxes or all three of those top boxes.
Right.
How do you get them talking to each other about it? How do you get them, well, we're doing this thing, maybe I'm on the tech side or not the tech side, but how do you get their wheels turning in their head about, okay, I've been through this training material. What difference does it make to me?
Sure. So I guess I definitely take some of the suggestions. Definitely just having a chunk of the training being offered and allow them to just go through doesn't reflect then how it will apply towards their jobs or towards specifically that immediate enhance or enrich what they have learned. So some of this we will definitely take into the look as part of the initial part we have created. We will probably just look into how we can follow up those who have completed those courses to see what are the so-called knowledge gauge that we could actually bring across, or those are completed, we can, based on the statistics that we have pulled from the Udemy platform, gather them together and kind of see what are the knowledge or questions that it comes along, so that it will be a sort of peer grouping for which they can further explore and go beyond. That is one aspect of putting together. I guess there is also, because cloud computing tend to be pretty much a very immediate need, whereby earlier in my presentation, in the central team, IHiS are already in the whole verge of bringing the healthcare commercial cloud into offering. And these days, with the revised policies that MOH have issued recently, a lot of those systems definitely will fall into category. They need to bring it into the platform. So some of the project or system they support, they are immediately going to start involved in this whole particular journey to bring some of the systems into appropriate cloud setting. And this will be the knowledge for them to start getting themselves familiar with, so that when they are in the project, they not be in a way totally unfamiliar or not knowing what are the specific terms or what are the mechanisms that are being offered by the various cloud hosting vendors.
Just let me comment and then I'll back off the floor. But the fact that you're doing this from, let's call it a digital enablement, and there's both IHiS staff and non-IHiS staff from the hospital sort of doing it together, correct?
Right.
If nothing else, it gives people common vocabulary. You know what I mean? Common imagery, and we all know the
terminology, the lingo, right?
And let me just carry on from there, Steve. Thanks, because I think that's a very good segue that you presented, because of the fact that in one of the things that we have been studying in the IHiS Academy is also this aspect of how do we create a community around this. So I think this is something also for SingHealth, because this is still very early days.
Right.
To be fair, right? It's very early days, and it's wonderful that they have been able to put up the 6 pillars, and they are very clear about some of these areas. But I'm sure it will evolve over time.
True. We take feedback and make some changes and try to make it more effective in bringing this knowledge across as well.
That's right. And
could you go to slide 5 for a second? The next slide.
Sure. Let me go ahead.
And again, I'm actually picking up on Solomon's bit. You know, Solomon had some very particular aspects about how do you do the hands-on. You know, and that, as you heard my strategy, I'm coming up a level, and whether it's that types of hands-on application or even more conceptual, talking about how to work it into my planning about work. One possibility to consider is when you do the February, March, April group, and they get through those first 3 courses.
Right.
Now, this will be a little bit non-conventional. Take a pause. Don't jump them immediately in May, June, July into all the new content. Take maybe 4, 6, or 8 weeks and informally let people talk about, apply, figure out informally within their work group, sort of what Salman said, how they could sort of process,
internalize all this that they have learned now.
That's
Right.
right.
Okay.
That's right.
Then the training moves to learning.
True.
And
True.
even though it's a little delay, then you start the second section.
That's right.
That seems to me like a way of, really putting the power in what you get, because we all know just exposing people to content doesn't necessarily result in learning.
And just to add one more thing, not that we didn't have a lot of things, but one more thing. All right, Guan, is in line with what Steve was talking about. If we create a space in between that, that slide, right? And that looks for some level of reflection. That really adds on to the experiential learning model. Because there's action and there's reflection. And then and also you might want to at some point consider, and not that you're going to need to do that now, but perhaps one other thing is the aspect of how do we move from learning into internalization is through a concept which has been out there is action learning. So the asking of those questions that allows you to then deepen your reflection and understanding, that then moves to maybe this is an action that we can take, and with small groups we can actually do that, and that will be a great experiment, and you can come back next year and talk about this.
I mean, and to keep the load off of you could just say to the people who do it, create a team of 2 or 3 people and just come up with some idea how you can apply some aspect of what you went through in those first few modules. And what the hell, whatever they say, it's not right or wrong. The point is they follow through, they revisit, they internalize.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. That was a wonderful exchange of ideas. Salman, I hope we answered your question. Salman, you there?
At least point in the
You
direction.
did,
At least,
You did, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, does anyone else want to ask a question? If that's okay, we still have time, I think. Yeah, maybe we can take one more question before we move on, and is that all right?
There's 66 other participants, and some of them have to be involved in training initiatives within their teams. So some of them have to have something to say.
Yes.
I've got a question, Benjamin here. I'd like to find out how you would measure the effectiveness of the training. How would it be measured?
Well, thanks for the questions. Definitely, we are going to first look into the dashboards or the statistics that the platform that we are able to leverage on to see some of the learning progressions that the individual have went through, and to see how the status has done. But how to measure the effectiveness, that's where it's part of one of my last slide did indicate we are also trying to carve out the KPI, as well as probably taking from earlier Steve's suggestions in what way we were able to then further define and really so-called reaffirm some of their learning they've completed has been pretty much internalized by them, and by thinking aloud some approach to group them together or to assign them certain assignments for them to take on, so that they really go to apply, and from there we were able to gauge how they have effectively benefited from the training.
Benjamin, you just asked that question, correct?
Yes, correct.
So let me, I'm not trying to be a clown here, but let me come back to you. You're part of one of the IHiS operating teams. What should he care about? We know in Singapore, we can go crazy with KPIs, right? Anything you do, you can KPI it down to, the death. what is important? If you were in his shoes, what would you be looking for the KPI?
Probably change in behaviors. Maybe some of these things cannot be quantifiable. It could be a qualitative trait, or something that helps them to do their job better. Yeah, it may not be quantifiable, but I'm sure the outcomes will show for themselves.
What would be an example, Benjamin, where it's like I can't get it down to like, precise numbers, but I know directionally it's important, even though sort of little squishy, fuzzy, related to this training?
Perhaps even if they don't have the answers, they would know where to go and find the answers. They may even, because of their peers that have gone through the course, they may even have a network of support where they can, check with their friends and like, I have this problem here, how do I solve it? And their peers can help each other.
Super powerful. Yeah.
Yep.
Well.
Okay, anyone else has any question? If not done, probably, this is Yong here, by the way. If not done, probably I will just share my thoughts on what I've been hearing a little bit, and really to give thanks to Hock for sharing. And then rightly, as Steve pointed out, I think all of us in one way or another may be in different stages of this journey, that I have to be the one that's driving this within the team itself, or I'm part of the team member that's part of driving this journey as well. So I think what they have shown us is a very good way to be able to achieve that by leveraging on the existing platform that we have. Why we invent the wheel, right? And for the fact that they have actually done their research, looking at the different platforms, and they have arrived at one. I think the benefits to this journey that we have is really, in terms of digitalization, and not forgetting they are not just looking at this module for technical IT folks, but also for the users, right? So that's why we talk about the language that's being used. We heard about cloud so much, but realistically, when you ask around what is really cloud computing, for simple question, are servers involved in cloud computing? That way you know how much the person knows about cloud computing, right? And you can see one possibility is true that the whole team have a better understanding. They are able to ideate better. And we have discussion about KPIs, how you measure success, and so forth and so forth. But for this group, imagine all 66 of us or 64 of us now has done this, and they don't come out and say that, hey, for IHiS, there's this 3 big cloud initiatives that we could do. And we bring it to fruition at the end of the year with a certain timeline by end of FY22. That is the result and the business benefit, right, to this training. So I'm just showing an example. I hope that helps in answering some questions and also many points that we have been discussing so far. And if you look at his pathway, one thing I must say, and I'm really heartened, is that if you look at what does he have, of course we heard a lot about now, but if you look at the slide board that he has, I think sometimes to someone he portrays workplace group, so please look at that. There's also mentioned about data analytics, right? So it's not all about the sexy creative analysis. He's even talking about data visualization, some of the hygiene factors before you go into that how to look for the black hole in the sky, kind of stuff, right? And also in terms of agile fundamentals, these are all buzzwords that we're hearing, right? And it sort of become the minimum standard that future workers should have. And for him to share, he has done the homework for you guys. You don't need to go and scout through whatever is there. Just look at what he has and say, okay, I can actually just leverage on that as well. Right. So I think that's just my little views that I have within here, and I really thank Hock for taking time to come and share. Really, hope that you guys find this useful as well. Yeah. So Sebastian, back to you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Leong Wee. And just to echo Leong Wee, thank you very much, Hock Guan. Please give him a round of applause. Okay, virtually or really, I mean, that's fine. Okay, if you got those applause button, just press a button there. That'll be nice, And we are going to be watching out for you, Hock Guan. All right, you owe us a slot next year. We already kind of pre-booked it already. You know what I mean? Okay, so
I look forward, but thanks for the invitation. I definitely also have learned from this, because this is the whole opportunity that IHiS has created this platform that we can share ideas, bring forward what we are doing, and along the way we hear and further improve what we are doing so that we can better carry this out so that we can achieve what's the end goal.
Yeah. You know, just the thought, Hock, given that you guys have planned this, you're doing it, you're going to do it. We just take that for granted that the train has left the station, is on the track. But given you're proceeding in this way, how to sort of have some of the packaging, engagement, interaction wrapped around it where you get the extra impact of doing it, and it sort of goes from just content assimilation to, hey, this is sort of helping the way I think about my work, you know? So if only you and the team can figure that out. But if you want a sounding board, you can come back to the academy just to sort of like sounding board your ideas against that. Be happy to sort of just do what we can to, you know, help weave in that, learning by doing element within the practical constraints.
Yeah. So in other words, what Steve is saying, Guan, you do not walk alone. Okay. So we can always come back to us, and we'll be more than happy to work this through with you, you know, as from an academy standpoint. Yeah. Okay. All good. Thank you very much once again. Today we have got Jorge Suzuki. Okay, so Jorge comes from Udemy. Basically, you have heard quite a bit just now about Udemy, some of the Udemy programs. So Jorge is going to then take us through to some of the work that we have been doing with them, and some of the programs, and that's also available for all of you. Okay, Jorge, all yours. Yeah.
Thank you, Sebastian. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for having me today. And I must say, I absolutely love the discussions you've been having up to now. They're absolutely engaging. That only means one thing, that we are able to support you with our content, with ideas. And I love the engagement here. And there's a lot of ideas how we can additionally support Yonghui, the team, to be able to support you better. So it's very informative for us. So thank you for allowing us to participate. Today, what I want to do, I want to focus on one area, is not, let's say, what IHiS can do for you, but what can you do for yourself when you're looking at how can I improve myself in terms of personal development. I started to share my screen right now. Can everyone see my screen? So this is a slightly different version of my demo account. It's almost exactly the same to what you have access at IHiS. And what I want to show in particular here is not only the ability to go and learn from one specific course, but how can create a subset of courses that help you to tackle a specific goal that you have in terms of career development. So when we talk about career development, there's two ways that I want to approach this. The first part is I need help in how to think about my career development. And the second part is I kind of know a little bit what I want to improve on, so I'm just going to choose the topics. So when you see here, you have the ability to go into learning paths. You may see some learning paths that are already created by the company here that you can have access to, but also you have the ability to create your own personal private learning path that is for yourself. So let's say at the first stage, I want to create a learning path that is focused on how do I focus on my career development. And I am going to title this my career development. And so I'm going to show you just two ways that you can choose courses to add on to this. So you can use a set of courses that can help you guide you in this specific topic. So very easy. The next part is you add content here. If you make it very long, you can add headings, but I'm just going to choose a course here by Udemy. Oops, not this part, my apologies. Let's go back to my career development. Edit. So I will add the content where it's Udemy course, and I am just going to choose career development. So right away, you get some suggestions. And I'm thinking, okay, this sounds pretty good. 50 career self-development topics. I am going to first learn from the 50 tips. I'm going to pick up probably 5 of the topics that I think are best within this course. It's an hour and 25 minutes, but I think I can spend to just really plan out what my career development is. But let me also, I want to see what other courses would they be available beyond just tips, but more structured way of focusing on a career development. And to do that, sometimes you just need to look beyond the title. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to search for career development. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to look a little bit more of the different topics and what I'll learn here. Let's say leadership. So I'm right now where I am right now. Eventually, I want to aspire to be a leadership. And what does that involve in terms of career development? So I'm going to look into the course itself. I'm going to read into the descriptions. And then I'm going to look at what the different topics are covered within this course. And let's say I just wanted to keep at a high level and say what is the overview and what are the characteristics of the leadership, and just leave it at that for now. So what I will do within this course, I can go and add it as you saw through the learning path. But what I will do right now is I will add it to the learning path through here. So when I go back to my learning path and let me update it, you see that I have the course already added to my learning path. Likewise, this is also a 2 hour and 42 minute course. It's slightly long. And I just wanted to focus on the basics of leadership and essentials for career development. So what I will do here is I will only choose the parts of the course that are important to me. So let me just deselect all the sections, and I want to just focus on the 3 main parts here, up to the overview. Characteristics, okay, I'll choose up to here. And what this has done for me is the first step for me to start planning my career development, that includes some leadership into it, is look at 50 tips of what I think I need to be successful in my career development. And then when I start looking into leadership, instead of going and learning for 2 hours and 42 minutes, I am going to take a 46-minute course. So I have done this, and I'll give you an example. When I click and I'm ready to go learn, and I've watched this course already, and I come to learn this course in particular, it'll highlight only the sections that I have chosen as part of that course in particular. So I want to be focused. It's a very long time. We all don't have that much time. So you see that I've only have, as a learning part of this course, only 4 sections of the course. So any questions you have up to here for this part of the creating a learning path and career development?
Could I just ask you one question, Jorge?
Yes.
You gave us one example. Of course, Udemy has thousands of items, but the one example you gave us, every item is indexed in the way that you showed us, as if you can see a table of contents and you can sub-select what you want. Is that true for everything in Udemy, or just for a subset of what's in Udemy?
So every course does have breakdowns into different lectures and different subsections into lectures. When you add it into a learning path, even if it's for one course or multiple courses, you are able to do that for all of the courses within the learning path.
All right. So somebody could take something, it's got 3 hours. I want to focus on this 90 minutes or even 30 minutes within it. And you can do just like you did, go see the index of what's there, how it's subdivided, click on what you do and don't want, and you're done.
Yes, you're correct. And I'll give you an example. My sales leadership last year, there's 3 areas of focus that I think our sales representatives needs to improve on. And so they created a learning path with 4 courses that I had only 1 5-minute part on each course. And they say, this is the parts that we absolutely need you to raise your focus on. And instead of having a 3-4 hour course, we had a 25 minutes learning path that they say, this is what you have to focus on, for example. So that's the way it can be used. And that's all of the courses, you can do that through a learning path. The next part I wanted to see something is when you have an idea or you speak to your manager, you say, okay, I think I need to improve slightly. Let me just see my path. I have a lot of customers meetings, and I think I need to communicate better with my customers. And I've asked my manager to join a meeting, and she said, okay, there's two things. Let's look at a structure of how you can have better customers meetings. But I also think you need to be a little bit more confident, for example. And this is where it's good for you to go ask feedback from your managers or your peers. And so I've chosen the first course because I want to look holistically of how can I perform a better meeting with my customers. So I've added the entire course. The second part that I looked at let me just add onto here, onto being more confident, is I chose only a few sections that I think would help me in this. And as you see here, build unstoppable confidence and the art of casual conversation. So I went through the entire course, and I think this is where I think I could use a little bit more confidence and to be a more assertive, let's say, for example. So that was one part of it. And then I have additional feedback that I think I need. And I've just searched it for here in advance that I think I also need to learn better, because sometimes I miss something what clients are telling me and I don't take note of it. And then I just don't remember what happened. So one thing I've chosen in this course is active listening, which actually this course I'm learning separate to this. Is, okay, I think I need to improve this to have better meetings and understand my clients better. So one of the things I'm going to do is I am going to add also this full course as part of the, let me put a heading onto this. And then just add the course. Now, what you can do is you can look at the course detail on a separate page and then just copy the URL here, and that will give you the option to just add the course here. So I have added that course. I can, as explained earlier, I can choose specific parts of the course that I think I need to focus on. For the moment being, I think I need a lot of work on my listening skills, so I'll leave this course as an entirety here. So this is what I think personally I need to do to improve my, be better at my job, is to have better meetings with clients. And within better meeting with clients, looking at it holistically, is one is being more confident, and the other one is being able to listen better to my customers, or just of better skills. So this is what I've added myself, and I think this is something that I need to improve. So this is what's say where we can be proactive. Udemy has content in almost every direction on soft skills, technical skills, whether it's PowerPoint, Excel, you name it, and there will more likely be a course for you to be able to improve yourself on. I have created a cloud computing that gives me the basics of cloud computing, like someone that has no clue what cloud computing is, and then do a basic introduction into all of the 3 main cloud providers, for example. So that's when you can also start looking at technical side. So one of the things is, where do you need to improve? Sometimes there's courses to help you make that decision, but at the same time, what I would recommend is also speak to the people that work close with you. Work with the people, with your manager, for example, to get advice, to see where you can improve, for example. But this is what I wanted to share with you, is the ability for you to be able to create learning paths based on the Udemy content available there, for you to be more proactive in what do you need to improve of to be a better professional or person.
Jorge, somebody, Tamrin, I don't know if she's from IHiS or...
no, she's from Udemy.
All right, but
yeah.
she did make the suggestion, somebody goes through that 2.5 hour thing. How do they make sure they can include the practice test?
Yes.
Right? Because just listening doesn't get you there. You sort of have to try. Where in that little review thing, click, click. So, oh yeah, the practice test comes in.
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things, let's say when we look at a specific course, for example, and we look through the filters on the left-hand side, so you have here the ability to choose the quizzes, coding exercise, and practice test. And when you, let's say, create a learning path on an AWS course, you'll be able to see that. Let's go see with the practice test, for example. This is a very long course. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. Let's see. This one is maybe a bit short. And within all of these sections here, you'll find the, let's see where the practice. So this course has a practice test here. So this is where you would add, for example, this has the practice exam here. And you could add this part just as we said, as we chose a different part of the lectures, and choose that with the part that you want to learn as part of the learning path itself. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Steve?
yes. It's not so much for me, it's for the 60-some people listening that you can go in and select to make sure you get that.
Sure. Most likely the listening part, there wouldn't be too many of the quizzes and exams, but definitely the technical content, a lot of them would have those options to there. And for just to make sure that the courses that you choose have those options, you can filter them down here through the features filter. Any questions in this or any other topic that you'd like to ask today?
Okay, has anybody got any experience on, want to share the experience on using Udemy and you discovered that was you had some issues or whatever? Now will be a great time. Okay, I take it everyone is all right.
It's not only now, we're open for us to communicate anytime, daily. We're here for you. We have a lot of ideas that's based on what we've heard today. So we'll work closely to further keep on improving our relationship. But thank you very much for inviting us today to this session.
Oh, thank you very much for coming, Jorge and Tamlin. Hope you get well soon. Yeah. And okay, thank you very much.